So to open the project from Xcode, click that, and you have to navigate into the subfolder generated by the tool, and under KMP demo 2024, you will see iOS app, and just open the file with that extension Xcode proj. Open in Xcode. So wait for building as usual. So building, indexing, I'm looking at the top line here. It is ready, so now I can run, and I just want to let you see side by side. This is what we have on the Android side, okay, under the emulator. And if I run using my iOS simulator, it will look the same. Yes, okay. So button click me, yeah. So this is on iOS, this is on Android, okay. So let me show you the code. Let me show you the code here. So on the iOS side, as you understand the basic structure, there's a content view, right? And there's a compose view. And what is compose view? Compose view is a struct that implements the protocol, UI view controller, representable, and so on and so forth. Okay, but the trick they use to bridge between Kotlin and Swift is line 7. Okay, so whenever you see that name, main view controller KT, you know it is from Kotlin. Okay, so what is a view controller? I didn't talk about a view controller because I switched to from UI kit to Swift UI. Okay, so before Swift UI, whenever you're writing an iOS application, you have to use the library which they call UI kit. So, and then the UI kit is designed for MVC architecture, model view controller, and Apple literally named this class like view controller. So that's part of the MVC, right? So MVC in Android, view controller is like an activity. Okay, so an activity is like a single screen that you can use to interact with. So now let me open up the other file, the other Swift file, because you see only 2 Swift files here. The other one is this guy, content view. That's the only 2 files that you will see, and magically you will see more UI. You don't see any button here, right? You don't see any image here, because all the buttons on the image are generated from Kotlin side. Okay, so what's going on behind the scene? Whenever you update your Kotlin code, this class will be updated. Okay, so the main view controller will be updated by Android Studio. So anytime you update that, and then it will, of course, the iOS side will be using the latest copy. Yes. If you want to do that, then you have to start the project by selecting Do Not Share. Yeah, yeah. You can combine, of course, because this is just a view, right? You can add some. You can add your own. So I can put like VStack here, okay? Because compose view is just a view. So I can put something else besides the compose view. That's only in iOS. Okay, what is the question?
If we change something now in the main thing, would it override that? Would we just change?
No, because this part affects only compose view, right? So this structure, the name of this structure is compose view. So whatever you do in Kotlin will show up only inside compose view, right? There's just a new view. Okay, so, yep, let me confirm it. Okay, let me confirm that. So I have now a text, right? In addition to the compose view, I have a text. So the text only in iOS should show up in addition to the logo and the click me button. Okay, build succeeded. Yeah, yeah, whatever you do inside Kotlin will show up only in the compose view. Okay, so if you want to add something else, you can. Yeah. So I'm going to switch back to Android Studio. Okay, and then let's make some changes. So let's make some changes here. Now, the main bulk of the code is under that folder, Compose App. Okay, so under Compose App, you will see more subfolder. So if you open up the SR source subfolder under Compose App, you will see Android main, Common main, and iOS main. Okay, so so you see the main view controller here, right? And the main view controller is basically using the composable, which is the app. Okay, so this is the entry point. This is the bridge from Swift to Kotlin. Okay, so let me show you again. So this is using main controller view controller, line 7 in Xcode, and line 7 in Xcode is exactly this guy here. Okay, this is exactly the Kotlin. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the app. Okay, the app is now a composable, a normal composable, and the app is now in Common main. So from this point on, this is just a normal composable. Okay, so we have the top level composable in Kotlin that will be used in both iOS and Swift. So if I make some changes, let's say if I don't use the animation, if I comment out the animation, and if I change the text, if I run it, the shortcut in Android Studio is Control R. If I press Control R, and then it will run. Okay, so I changed the app, the top level app. Now the button just say go. Okay, and it doesn't do anything because I disable the code, the animation, visibility there. Now if I switch back to Xcode, and again the shortcut in Xcode is Command R. So if you remember those two shortcuts, Command R in Xcode and Control R in Android Studio, you'll be able to switch back and forth between Android Studio and Xcode to run the new program. Yeah, build succeeded. Yes, so this is the new code, the new UI in Xcode. Okay, so question, do you see how it works? So just design your UI in Android Studio and everything will follow. So now let's say I'm going to add more. I'm going to add more here. So let's say I'm going to replicate that game as you learn from the other Android project. I call it game screen, right? And I just want to add more content here. And I'm going to, not a class, this is a function, this is a composable function. Okay, and then I'm going to put my text and the grid in a column as we did earlier. So I need to import, missing import. This is normal routine that you have been using when you work with Android Studio. So let's say I will replicate the game. And again, I need to import missing text. Okay, and I'm going to write another function for the grid. I call it number grid or whatever. Okay, and I'm going to place the number grid below the text. Okay, and I'm going to use repeat 4 times. I'm going to create row. Okay, import again. So inside the row, I'm going to repeat again 4 times to create each text. And now I have a text. Okay, so let's run it. Let's run it. The number grid should be just like 4x4 stuff. And if I run it on my Android, you should see the grid. Of course, because I never use game screen, so I need to call it from my app because this is the top level, right? So I'm going to replace that. I'm going to replace those lines with my game screen. Okay, run it again. Control R in Android Studio. Okay, I have the grid. It doesn't look nice, and we can fix that issue. And again, I can change the text to make it bigger and so on and so forth. I can do the modifier. So basically, you can just repeat the code that you have from your Android Studio here. So again, import. Okay, so run again. So now I'm going to make the text to fill in the entire. Yep, it's there. And I want to make it center. To make it center, I have to modify the alignment. So one of the options is text aligned. Text align. I want to place it center. Okay, and also maybe I want to change the font size, bigger font size. Font size, maybe like 26 scale point, and then import scale point. Oops. Import scale point. Okay, so let's try this one. So Control R. Yep, it's bigger. And also I want to change the aspect ratio. So I can change the aspect ratio here. Aspect ratio. Aspect ratio is a modifier. So I just chain that with aspect ratio 1. Okay, and Control R again. Yeah. Okay, so it's there. Now if I switch back to Xcode and again just type Command R, the code in Xcode, your iOS simulator should show the new content. Okay, yeah. Isn't that magic? You just write code in Kotlin and then you will get free code in Xcode, right? Free program in Xcode. Okay. Any question about this idea? Okay, so you can continue to make it nicer, but so now you know how to work with the UI, right? Because the UI is just like Android, okay? And now, how do you implement navigation? Because you want to navigate between screens, okay? Same rule, same trick, because now you're going to be writing everything in Android. And again, but you have to use a different library, okay? So the navigation library for pure Jetpack Compose is different. The code is the same, but you have to use a different library. So if you just search on navigation, okay, so that link will tell you this is the library that you have to use. Okay, the library is maintained by JetBrains, not by Google. Okay, so that's why the name is different, and it tells you that you have to add this implementation inside the common main dependencies. Okay, so let me copy this line. Their documentation is not perfect. I cannot scroll to the right. I want to scroll to the right to copy just that line. So I need to copy the entire block, okay? Just be aware that it will give you an error when you do that, when you paste the copy. But I do want to place it under common main. So where do I find that? So go back to Android Studio, okay? Now, you will see common main as a folder, but with other Android project, whenever you are adding a new library, you want to add the library description inside the build Gradle file. Okay, so you don't find the build Gradle file here, but the closest one is here. The closest one is here, build Gradle, and it's this under the Compose app. Okay, so if you open that, and indeed you do have a block, the common main dependencies. Okay, so then you have to paste. You have to paste that, but of course you will have to remove the other extra line because you do want to copy only the implementation. The import is complete, so now I can move to add move back to my Android Studio and add a new screen. Okay, and again, this is not a class. I want to make it a function, a composable function. Composable, and just a function. Okay, just for now, this is a new setting. Okay, and of course I need to import text, Alt Enter. So again, for navigation between screens, you do have to create navigation controller like what you did earlier, and I'm going to do that here. So I'm going to create a navigation controller. So you need a nav host, okay? And the nav host, the first argument of nav host is the nav controller, and the second argument is the start destination. And let's call this one game. Okay, again I'm repeating what we did in Android Studio. So then I'm going to put the game screen as the first composable. Which is game, and move game screen inside. So again, run it. Just make sure we can see the output, the same output. We don't do navigation yet, but it shouldn't change the output. Yes, it's still working with navigation added there. And now, of course, inside my game screen, I do want to place a button that will allow me to transition to the other side. Okay, so button, on click. And of course I have to import. And then it will tell me go to setting, something like that. Okay, now of course you have to use the navigation controller inside your game screen. And the trick that we have been using from Android is to pass the navigation controller into your screen, into each individual screen. So I do need to change the design of my game screen to take an extra argument of type nav host controller. So go back here and my game screen, let me call it NC, and the type is nav host controller. And now this allows me to navigate to a different destination. Okay, let me call it ABC. Okay, of course we do need to create the new destination ABC. We don't have that yet, and that will be just another composable in here. ABC, and this will be my setting screen. Okay, so now if we try run again on the Android, make sure everything works on the Android side before we try it on the iOS side. I do have that button. Go to settings. If I press that button, yes, it is. Now we are inside the other screen. This is a new setting. Okay, so navigation works with Kotlin multi-platform. Okay, so now let's confirm that the same flow of navigation works in iOS. I just switched to Xcode. I don't have to write any code. Just press Command R. So if I press Command R, then Xcode should use the latest copy of the navigation controller, main view controller. Succeeded. Yep, we have a button, and if I press go to setting, yes, indeed, we are in a new screen. Okay, it works. So now you see in Android, we have the default back button. In iOS, we don't have that button. Okay, so that means you have to add that feature to allow you to go back to your main screen. So I'm going to edit my setting screen again. So I just I'm going to add a button here, button. And I will say back to game. And of course, in Jetpack Compose, when you declare a button, you have to say onClick. And import onClick. What do we do with onClick? Again, we want to use the navigation controller, the same navigation controller. That means we have to supply the navigation controller as an extra argument to our setting screen. Just the same pattern that we did with the game screen, nav controller, but that means I do have to modify the signature of my setting screen function to take that extra argument nav host controller. Okay, so now it will allow me to go back and see pop back stack. Okay, oops, what did I press? Okay, so make sure that it is compiling okay on the Android side. I just press Command R. We have the go. Oh, they overlap because I don't put them in a box, right? In a stack. So the text and box are just overlapping. So I do have to put them in maybe in a column. I was about to write VStack. VStack is in SwiftUI. Column and then import. Okay, run again. Go to setting. Yeah, we do have the new setting. We have the button. The button, pressing the button should take me back to the game. Okay, and switch to iOS. Command R. I don't have to write any code in iOS. Go to settings. Back to game. Yes, everything works as expected.